All right, so I'm very happy to have Torsten, the Rideshare Professor, on the show this week. That he brought up a issue that hit really home to me, and I want to first of all I want to thank him for coming on. So thank you for coming on this
And
week.
I appreciate you having me on your show. I like the name Rodeo. It says it all.
Right,
Wild Rodeo.
right,
Good.
because we never know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Um, but yeah, so I've watched your YouTube channel for a long time, and I think we both hit on that same audience quite a bit.
Yes.
I think a lot of the people who watch all your videos, I get a handful anyway who listen to the full podcast because podcasts are a little bit different, but
Yes.
nonetheless, I think we follow a lot of that same crowd and a lot of mentality. But especially here, about a week ago, you did a piece, and I want to lead into that by saying that in 2019, I kind of had the same passion. I mean, I still do. I've had Lenny from Independent Driving Guild and other people who we talk about the issue of violence, carjackings, all this that's going on, and how it's even going on at a larger number with less drivers right now, which is
Yeah.
very odd. It's just society. But
It's exactly. Yeah.
in 2019, I don't know if you remember this story. This was in Arizona, right outside of Phoenix. There was a 39-year-old woman, Christina Hawado. Do you remember this at all?
I remember that story. Yeah.
She was a driver for Lyft. She was
Yeah.
in her third trimester pregnant, and
Yes.
20-year-old Fabian Durazo was in her car and had her take him to a long-term parking lot at the Phoenix airport. When they got there, there was nobody else there, and he stabbed her repeatedly in the stomach, knowing she
Yeah.
was pregnant, and never stabbed her in the head. Just that sick mentality threw her out of
Yeah.
the car. The police got there. She was dead. He had stolen the car and was going the speed limit, just heading to California. They hit the lights. He pulled over, said he did it, the works. And it really drove me nuts. It got about 1 day's publicity in
Yeah.
the newspaper in Phoenix. And then about a month later, what was her last name? Samantha Joseph, the, Say My Name campaign.
Yes.
Samantha Joseph, Samantha Joseph, and I feel horrible for her and what
North
happened there as well.
Carolina. Yeah. Yeah.
But however, she was in every newspaper everywhere for getting into the wrong car drunk. And I had to dig one article on this driver who was stabbed repeatedly in a very, just, even the police officer statements were like some of the worst thing they've ever seen.
Right.
And I just wonder, she is getting this, and it was that. And ever since, I've still had the passion and the drive for it. But I know you have too. But I think I noticed in your videos last week, and I think they were great. I think really you did a great job. But I felt that passion in you that I felt in me when this happened.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can explain why that passion happened and what. Because
I grew up in a country with a lot of violence. I myself, I've seen horrific things with my own two eyes, and it shook me up as a youngster, and I always vowed to do things about it. So especially protecting the poor African population down in South Africa that were brutally attacked in that. So I've always been an advocate for safety. I always stand up against the bully. I always fight the big boys, and I'm not afraid because if people knew what I'd been through and what I've seen, they would understand me better. But for me, this is a job, right? You have two CEOs on the top that are getting insane salaries. The one guy has his own private island and spends $2 million on security. And obviously he spends that type of money because the decisions he makes out there affect a lot of lives in a negative way. And the one thing, I mean, they call him the math guy. I always talk about him, Dara Khosrowshahi, and I'm not afraid to be very vocal and go after these companies and call them out. And last week, being on 5 different channels. I mean, the two of us, Yi Lu and the Chinese guy from Shanghai and myself, I mean, we drove around multiple counties meeting with all these TV reporters. And I said, listen, we got to We got to meet with them all. And,
Yeah, I watched all of the videos.
I know you want to go to San Francisco, but the people want the story. We got to go to Riverside. We got to go to Orange County. We got to meet them wherever they want to meet us. You cannot go to San Francisco yet. You got to go with me 72 hours. And he did that. And it was good because, lucky the guy didn't lose his life, because that guy flipped and wanted to crush that guy's skull. And he was lucky that he fell into the car, and the car actually absorbed most of the of the impact, right? But
still insane though. Still insane.
And if you look at the incident in Phoenix where the girl was stabbed in the stomach, right? When you look at the North Carolina one when she stabbed 100 times,
right?
These are sick individuals running around in society, right? They believe they're above the law. They believe they cannot be caught, right? Yep. And they commit these sick crimes. Now, yes, they're out there doing this, but the companies know this, and they have the opportunity to tighten up the systems wherever they can. And this is all about money. This is about spending money in the right places, right? And this guy that I love so much, the Dara Khosrowshahi guy.
Don't worry. We dump on him here often too. So,
and he's
I got no problem with picking on Dara.
The math guy, right? So he tightens all the screws and saves where he can. But this is an area where he's saving in the wrong place, and this is an area where I got to say it. The guy's got blood on his hands. It's too easy to open up an account. It's too easy to get on that platform. I'm doing a video tomorrow morning. There's an interaction between a rider and a driver, and the riders and the rider that books a trip for her son says, please pick him up at the prison. He's being released. And the driver says, I'm not going there. You know what I mean? It's like, what type of situation are you putting me in, lady? Right. Yeah. And this shouldn't happen. So you have AI. AI should catch these type of conversations. If it catches anything of this nature, they can program it, right? They should have pictures up there. They could definitely vet the passengers, and you can't just go out and get a prepaid Visa card or a gift card to get on the platform, because the guy behind me in the back seat, who knows what his or her history is, right?
Right.
And so it's their responsibility to do everything and anything to protect us. And it's both sides. I'm advocating for safety for drivers and riders. There's a lot of drivers on this platform.
I heard that from you, and I agree with you on that. Too many advocate for one or the other. It is both.
Yeah. And I mean, you may have passed a background check as a driver and got on, but you may have other sick ideas of, okay, well, I'm going to go, pursue someone and assault someone or rape someone. So it works both ways. I can't just point the fingers at the riders, but when this guy, when I saw that he got lucky and survived this one, because this 23-year-old that beat him was going to beat him to pulp. He hit him again and again and again with a pipe, and he was just lucky that he fell in the car and got out of the situations. A lot of people that don't know how to handle those situations end up dead. Right. And I mean, you and I know.
You just don't know. You just never know. I say this all the time. You never know who's getting in your car. Don't do this, but be very, very careful. Don't just be lackadaisical and pull up to places.
I mean, you have to go in with the attitude, anything could happen to me tonight, right? You can't have this casual, oh, you know what, I'm going to go and do a 3-6 hour shift, have fun and make some money. You got to go in saying, and knowing that this is a dangerous environment, and be on the alert all the time. And I know that feeling growing up in South Africa, where I had a 360-degree radar at all times. I would drive through red traffic lights. I got ambushed. I got shot at. People try to stab you. So you have to go in with that mentality. It doesn't mean you have to be paranoid. It doesn't mean you have to live your life in fear. But when you're getting in that car and you're about to pick up that next driver, what am I driving into? What do I see? What do I observe? In this case, there was a huge pile of crap DJ equipment that the guy wanted in the car, and the driver did the right thing. I mean, we're not a U-Haul, right? We're not a low budget transportation company. And, that's why I drove that message home, because I was in the situation several times where I drove in and I said, sorry, I can't put all of that stuff in your car, right? And I got a bit of aggression coming my way, and I just canceled and left. Other people, you got a big guy picking on a little guy, or a guy on a girl, you're going to take this stuff. And if you don't take the stuff, you heard the guy, I'm going to fire you. And then he just goes and loses his control. So they have to stop this right now, that if a driver ends up in that situation, it is not our duty. They have to spell it out clearly to riders. By the way, it's not the driver's responsibility to cart your belongings, your gym equipment, if you've been kicked out of a roommate situation, we don't have to take all your clothing. We'll gladly take you to the airport.
And if you do have a little bit of an extra load, call us.
Yes.
Sometimes we're very fine with that. We just want to hear that you're sane. Correct. And that you have a reason. And if we need to, we'll cancel. If not. Yeah.
I mean, good, meaningful conversation, text back and forth. You can read a lot between the lines, right? But driving into a situation at night, or
or you have a fake name, I mean, so many of the years I did it, fake name was the worst in the dark.
Fake name, you already, your anxiety levels are going up. And then, then under Proposition 22, by the way, huge announcement today in the lower courts in San Francisco, Judge Roche struck down Proposition 22, saying it was unlawful. So just huge announcement today. Obviously, they're going to appeal that, but we
talk a lot about AB5 and the PRO Act on the show. So yes, I had not heard that yet, because I had been pretty busy working with Para today. But just broke right now. But it's maybe something to report on. But back to safety. Yes,
the money they have an app, they have brilliant programmers. There is zero excuse they can't tighten up the system, and all the little loopholes have to be closed, right? All of these little the educating the rider, we don't transport your stuff, right? We'll gladly take your luggage to the airport, but we're not going to transport your gym equipment, your speakers, your sound equipment, et cetera, et cetera. So if they don't do that, and something happens again and again, and I told the media, and the media said to me, Torsten, bring any story to us. We love the Lyft and Uber stories. And I said, look, it's important that you guys, if it's an assault and a carjacking, whatever it is, you've got to keep on running these stories, because the stock right now is under $40, right? And as long as these stories keep on repeating, maybe someone up there, and obviously I'd love to shake their heads, but it's difficult, right? But maybe they'll start realizing that, in order for us to break out of that $40 threshold and start running a company, because there's such poor decisions made on the top, right? And this is the workforce, right? These are the people out there, the millions of people bringing in the money. And you are not communicating with them. You are not respecting them. You are not embracing them. You're not listening to them. And if that doesn't change, both companies are doomed. If they believe that SoftBank or the Saudis or the big investors or their West Coast investors are all they need to talk to, the company's done. And you see it right now.
I think I was just going to say, we see it right now. I mean, there are Uber is worldwide, and we already see even countries that usually would throw good after bad money at it are starting to go, whoa, dude. I don't know.
Whoa, exactly. Well, this is, and another quarter making a loss, and another quarter at a loss. And so they're not, Dara Khosrowshahi and Logan Green are afraid to talk about it. That's the number one thing. They're afraid to talk about it. They think the topic will go away. It's not going to go away. The topic will be in the news every single day. We just have to be the megaphone and the amplifier and keep the story in the news, because I'm making a prediction here, not Logan Green or John Zimmer on the Lyft side, but I can foresee Dara Khosrowshahi in the near future being subbed out by someone else, because the formula is not working for them right now.
I think that, after what he did with Expedia, obviously they just, at the time, letting Travis go, it was, it was just a big deal. But I've even said to people who, and you might disagree with this, honestly, I was around for all of Travis. I'd take Travis back in a heartbeat.
All day. I'll go out.
I know he partied too much. I know he got hookers. I know he went to sushi bars. I know he trashed the name Uber in many countries, but he wasn't on the level of Daryl.
He was a trailblazer, and he paid the people, right? Anyone in the channel, if you read the comments, oh yeah, under Travis, I was making money, I was one of their top recruiters, and making 20, 30, 40,000 a month. But good recruiting companies earn that type of money and get paid by Apple and Google, right? So if you bring and position a person in a company, whether it's an executive or middle management or lower management or any worker, you get paid for that recruiting job, right? Dara in 2019 wiped out millions of dollars and eliminated all of those referrals. So the guys, listen to this. This is interesting. And this story is breaking through the San Francisco Chronicle and another San Francisco paper next week, because they interviewed all the top referrers, and we found out, we all sort of had something in common, that those individuals that once recruited for the company and actually were paid under Travis, and got their, their earnings wiped out by Dara, have literally all more or less become advocates or turned against the company and actually educating the driver what they should and what they shouldn't do, right? And now you can still make money. You can still make money in this business if you work the system and you're smart about it. But the Travis days, and I agree 100% with you. I'll take Travis back all day long. But those days are limited, right? They over. And this guy came in to do the cleanup job. But I see him in the next 6 months. I can't see him keeping his position if the stock stays under $40. It just cannot happen.
No, and they're already lacking drivers in a lot of markets, as we all know, and the riders are back. And they're still charging. We just talked about this on the last podcast. They're still charging 250% and saying it's because of lack of drivers, which it really baffles me, because like you just said, he laid off the best recruiters. Well, you might have to lay off some people to make it so you don't have to charge because it doesn't make sense. Lyft and Uber were in a race to the bottom before the pandemic. And now it's like they're in a race to see who can get up to the highest.
100%. And I mean, you just touched on something, right? So riders are suddenly paying more than ever, and they pissed because they used to really get spoiled. I mean, they got low rates in the past. They got super 5-star service and low rates. Now, a lot of those people are going out buying their own cars or actually going with private drivers. Limo companies are doing great because these people are not prepared to pay 250% the price that they knew once upon a time. And the drivers, I had a 30-minute call with Wall Street Journal this morning, and he said, Torsten, what do you think the top 10 reasons are why drivers are leaving? And I said, I think I can give you 10 right away. And if I would try right now, obviously you have the pandemic. A lot of people are still afraid to get in the car, put on the mask, or have riders get in the car and have big arguments with them because they don't want to put a mask on. So they're a little bit fearful and reluctant. They might be immune compromised. They
might get 1 or 2 bad reviews in a day, be kicked off the platform. I talked to somebody in Philly today who that happened to.
Correct.
Because the passenger said they had a mass disagreement, which they didn't even have, and Uber won't take his video. He has dash cam video of it.
Yeah.
They said we don't need it. You're kicked off.
PUA, some people are still on the pandemic unemployment assistance, but a big one which we started on is safety, right? Yes. The amount of stories in the media have just escalated, whether it's carjacking, Chicago, Washington, stabbings, rapes. I mean, it's gone through the roof, and people are fearful, right? People are fearful.
And it's young people too. I mean, you even did a piece on one, or the Uber Eats driver that was killed by the two girls. And we're talking girls.
Correct.
We're talking, correct. I mean, I have a son that's going to be 15 in 2 weeks.
Correct.
We're talking girls, little girls.
In California, they spent all that money to get Prop 22, and then they said, okay, you're going to become independent. You're going to set your own rates with a multiplier. We're going to show you the destination filter. Well, they took that away a few months ago. So a lot of those California drivers said, you took my true independence away. I'm not coming back. And they're not going to get those people back. So they wonder why they cannot get drivers. I mean, they just really have to go into these chat rooms, onto your show, onto my show, onto videos, and actually start reading the comments, which they're not doing. They're not listening to the core things. Pay us and keep us safe. Pay us and keep us safe. If you can do those two, I think you'd start seeing drivers come back. But
and even if they stick with the current no multiplier surge, just flat surge, whatever it is, Denver's a pretty good city for making money with rideshare. But as I talk about often, we know market to market, it is so different. It's night and day. So, I mean, but then I've also told people who live in Boise, Idaho, your cost of living is 25% of mine.
True.
So you got to, even if you're not making as much at the end of the week, we might come out in the same place.
And you know, here in LA, for example, the guys are making big money, but look at the rents and look at the $4, you know, I gassed up today at $4.70, right? How are you going to start making profits at that money, you know, unless you have private clients and you're pocketing 100%. But how if you have to split that 50-50 with them, and then you have to pay these astronomical fees, I mean, how are you really going to make money in this business? So people have become smart, and they've looked at better paying jobs, and they started in the pandemic, they started exploring other opportunities, or maybe starting their own little company. And so those are the ones that are having difficulties getting back. I'm pretty sure they must have lost a lot of riders, alienated a lot of riders over those supersonic high rates. So, and now, you know, and that is supposed to be our chief executive officer. This guy knows what's wrong with the company, but is just not prepared to come in and fix it, right? He's not a good mechanic. Definitely not.
I don't think he's a good leader, but maybe that's just me, all in the whole sense of it. I mean, dissect any part of Dara, I don't really see why. I felt like Uber must have lost a bet when they lost Travis, and they lost a bet and had to take Dara. That's what it feels like now.
I like the way you just explained it, because you know, under Expedia, which you mentioned early on, he probably could crunch the numbers and you know, make things happen. This is a whole entirely different business model, right? Here you're dealing with millions of humans around the globe who are making investments into cars and are following your promises, right? If you break promise after promise after promise, if people believe that you're trying to shaft them with an algorithm, if people constantly believe you're trying to exploit them or extract more money out of them, eventually you wear them down, and they're done. And once you've done that several times, once a person's been bitten multiple times, not just one time, like, am I going to go back and take this abuse again? So the ones that are staying in there are the ones that are probably making the money right now, because they're prepared to drive during the pandemic. But I want to see how this whole thing plays out in October, November. You know, are the people coming back that they say that will be coming back?
Right. With PUANs on September 6th, the colleges are coming back right now. So even the littler towns where the market might appear that they have enough drivers aren't really, because they're not prepared for the college crowd to come back.
And I mean, are the college crowd prepared to pay these new rates?
No.
You know,
well, maybe a lot of it depends. I mean, a lot of them just have a credit card from their parents, and their parents didn't school them well, and therefore they just.
Another unknown factor is how long does the whole pandemic keep going? You know, what comes after Delta? Like, so there's a lot of question marks out there. Sure, that's not an easy thing for a CEO to navigate his company through a pandemic, but the basics, you know, Dara and Logan, the basics, if I could look them in the face, the basics are written on the wall, right? And if you grow a company organically, if you treat your people well, they stay with you. I mean, the retention level of keeping these drivers is so low. You know, people are bailing out after 2 weeks, after 4 weeks, because the writing's on the wall, man. You're not keeping us safe, right? You're not, or at least you're not showing us that safety is one of your main priorities. And we have to, you know, going back to that original, we started off with safety. We have to keep the stories in the headlines every day. You know, if people can retweet, if people can repost stories on Facebook, and just keep on circulating those stories, right? Because we have to connect with the public, and we have to let the public know that, hey, you know what, the guys on the top still have not addressed this issue, right?
Yep.
And like, you know, breaks my heart when you brought it up, the girl in Phoenix. I was horrified when I read that story. She's pregnant.
Yes.
She got stabbed in the stomach, right? And
left behind a husband and 3 other kids. That was going to be their 4th. I mean, there was a procession of drivers, but the media gave it no attention at all.
The media did not, you know, and the media did not give it enough attention. Maybe it was just too horrific for the media. But, you know, when you have a story like that, and this is really to the drivers, if something happens to you, don't sit back.
No.
These people are waiting for your story. You go and research your local radio stations, your podcast.
And don't sign your rights away. I heard you say it on your video, and I agree. Don't sign your rights away.
Those NDAs, they are designed to silence you. And when this guy received the NDA and said, can you read through all this legal paperwork? And I said, let's tear it up right now, because if you sign this document, you cannot talk to anyone. In fact, they would end up suing you. Right. So now we put so much pressure on them. I have 4 attorneys on them right now. I've got a workers' compensation attorney on them. I've got different attorneys for different, and you know, and suddenly we're seeing some cooperation. Their language has changed in the last 48 hours with Lyft. First, they said we don't think we can help you, and I said, okay, if you can't help us, and we'll introduce you to some people. So we have, like, I think 3 lawsuits filed against them for different reasons. And suddenly we have some cooperation, because I wrote a letter as well to these guys who are handling this. And I said, all of the media are going to do a follow-up story. So let's see how let's watch you closely, how you handle this guy. Are you going to take care of his medical bills? Are you going to assist him with his car? Because you put him in this situation. If you do not take care of this, we're going to have a second round of media. That was my personal, sorry about that. That was my personal letter to them. And I said, we're going to bring in all those reporters again. We're going to do a follow-up story and show them how caring you are. You know, and the language changed. So I'm having a good relationship with his attorneys. I'm helping them a lot. And, you know, wherever, bring your stories to me, give it exposure, or at least let me guide you in the right direction. Let me show you who you can call, right? Because you got to put a megaphone and an amplifier behind every story. Even if a girl has been sexually harassed in a car or vice versa, whatever the case is, take your story to the media. Don't be shy. Don't be shy to talk about it.
Excuse me. Yeah, true. Hey, I really want to thank you for coming on. And I want to say that I know that the rest of the community is too, but I am so thankful for the videos you put out. I mean, you really do put out, and honestly, I've been watching it for years, but I think you've even grown. You've always put out good content, but lately you're not beating around the bush. You're not like trying to make something worse than it is or better. You're just playing it real. And I know I'm not the only one that really appreciates what you're doing.
And I'm very grateful that you say that, because I think, you know, in our journey, if we get into social media, or if you know, in your job, we learn and we grow. We morph into other positions as well. You know, we take on multiple positions in this. You cover multiple stories. So, you know, right now, this is the topic. And I think every YouTuber has a responsibility to at least dedicate some time to safety. It's good to play the dash cam footage. You know, yes. The channels are showing a lot of dash cam because you have a big audience. They like sensationalism. They want to see what's going on. The dash cam footage teaches you a lot. But we cannot be afraid to take on these people, because the fact is, ladies and gentlemen, the power is in our hands, not in their hands. There's a couple of people running the show. The true power is in the workforce, is in the people in the cars driving around at night, driving drunk people around, getting them home safely. Those are the people who have the true power. So when you tap in your into your true power and you exercise your true power and you show up in your self-worth, right? We can teach these guys a lesson. So we learn, educate, turn to shows like yours, tap in, learn. It's great to listen to different speakers. It's great to open up our minds and grow as a rideshare community, right? And never be silenced. Never be silenced, because you're number one, and you need to stand up for yourself. And I appreciate you giving this a voice and amplifying it as well, because it's people like you and me. And if we can convince 3 others to do the same, you know, we're a growing, powerful movement, and we'll just keep on going until we get what we need to get, right? And that is results.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I need to tell anybody, but I will anyway, that Torsten, we thank you for coming on the podcast tonight. But you can find him on YouTube at the Rideshare, under the Rideshare Professor. You'll see his stuff. So subscribe to his stuff. You can find him on social media. The guy does great things, and he definitely falls in line with everything I agree with about the gig economy and what needs changes, and he has a good voice to it. So if you don't already know about him, which I'm sure you do, tune in.
Back on the show. You know, if you've got great topics, let's talk about them. I mean, we completely see eye to eye on these issues, and you know, let's truly work together and make a difference out there. And I'll gladly come onto your show anytime. It's awesome. Fantastic. Good job.
Thank you, Torsten. Have a great weekend.
You too. Have a good weekend. Take care. Be safe. Bye-bye then.
Bye-bye.